Welcome to Business Spotlight on Money Radio WPSE. Business Spotlight is heard weekly at this time on 1450 AM and 107.1 FM. Today's guest is Bethe Carlson, Freight Claims Management at Logistics Plus. Bethe, thanks for joining us. At LP, you specialize in freight claims management. Can you share what this entails and your role within LP?
When a client alerts LP of trouble with a shipment, our claims team kind of jumps in and acts as a liaison between our customer and the freight carrier that handled the shipment. We ask the carriers first if the freight is lost to do a dock check. They'll put out an APB for the freight. We sometimes send them pictures so they know what they're looking for. If it's short, we will ask them to check the docks. If it's damaged, we ask them to send us pictures. So we start the freight claims process right away.
Bethe, you have a varied background, as in the past you have worked at Consolidated Freightways, USF Holland, M&S Inspections, a small business owner, and you've even been a bartender. Can you share a little bit about what led you to freight claims management at Logistics Plus and what excites you most about your future at LP?
When I worked in LTL, my favorite thing was the what we call OS&D, over-shortened damaged area. So every LTL carrier has a dock where they have just this little area where they put everything. Sometimes freight labels come off, sometimes the packaging isn't intact and you just have what was inside of the packaging. So it was always kind of a challenge to match things up and get them to their home, and it felt good to do that. I have those romance novels, they're on our dock, and then you get them where they're supposed to be. So I always enjoyed that. And I took a job in transportation and then kind of got out of it for a while to open my own business, and then I started doing freight claims inspections on the side. And so it just all happened over the web, and they would send me a claim, and then I would go to the carrier's dock, and I would be kind of the person in between that said what happened to the freight. If I saw a tow motor mark where a tow motor ran over it, I could put that in my report. So we kind of were unbiased, and we did the inspections and then presented them back to the carriers, and then the carriers would rule whether they would pay the claim or not.
Taking a step back, you mentioned lost or damaged items. I would imagine that there's some anxious moments with this, right?
Yes. Sometimes things will need to get to a trade show. And if they're lost and they show up 3 days after the trade show, that isn't helping anybody. So right before, especially trade shows, because it has to make by then. But then also, if you send something to be embroidered for 200 employees for Christmas and it shows up after Christmas, that's a bit of a problem too. Not as big a problem if one is damaged. That's unfortunate. But if the whole thing doesn't make, that's a big deal.
Bethe, I have to ask, you have a broadcasting background as you went to broadcasting school in Chicago. In fact, you interned for legendary actor and radio announcer Danny Bonaducci. What was that like, and why the leap from broadcasting to freight claims management?
Danny was a riot. It was so fun to work with him. It was at the Loop in Chicago, which was in the John Hancock building, so that was fun. My office kind of overlooked Navy Pier, and that was very nice. But I went into broadcasting and then didn't realize how solitary it is. It's just you in a booth, and there's not as much interaction as I thought there was going to be. So I guess I was more of a people person than I thought I was. So I moved back to Erie to take a job in radio, and then ended up really not liking it. So I got a job at USF Holland, and at Consolidated Freightways, and just loved it. And now I'm here at LP, which is probably the best company to work for because it's so much fun.
One more follow-up question with this. I would imagine that working with Danny was an absolute blast, right?
His storytelling was so wonderful that you literally were kind of riveted to hear the end of his story. In the middle of it, he cut to a commercial, so everybody just kind of hung there. But yeah, that was wonderful. It was the John Hancock has a cheesecake factory, so after work it was always nice to go down there. But I would kind of in my office there was the Associated Press machine, and back then it was that printer that went zzz, and then came back and forth, and so I would kind of compile the news for them to read, and then he always wanted a wacky story with a soundbite of someone just in a huge rant. That was funny. So yeah, he's very clever. He's very quick-witted. He's a good guy.
Beth, can you share the importance of why LP manages freight claims management for your clients and how you excel at it?
LP's clients are a lot of people that just don't have time to monkey with things. Like, we take care of things for our clients so they don't have to. And with freight claims management, oftentimes it's that squeaky wheel that gets oiled. So if you're calling a claims agent for a carrier and you follow up, they kind of just want it to be finished. So that's half the battle, is just being that nag to say, where are we at with this? Where are we at with it? Because they can take 6 months to pay. And our customers definitely don't want that to drag on as long as possible, because oftentimes there's broken things sitting on their customer's dock, and it just, every day their customer looks at, something broken from a particular company. It just doesn't, it's not a good feeling to have broken things laying around. So there's that part. And then there's the sleuthing of looking at documents and maybe catching things that no one caught in the first place. Like, if you're telling me that the freight was damaged because it hung over the skid, but yet the carrier's weight and inspection team inspected the freight and took dimensions, I can come back and say, wait a minute, you inspected it. There's no way it could have hung over because. So a lot of times it's just taking that extra step to look at things.
As Logistics Plus has grown and your job has gotten more complex, what is the most difficult part of your job?
Well, it's no secret that there's a driver shortage. So all of the trailers are going out racked and stacked as tight as possible, which opens carriers up to more claims because, a lot of customers don't want their freight to be stacked, to have things stacked on top of it. So I would say that the carriers probably have more claims now than ever. It used to be profitable to floor load a trailer and send it out. It's not profitable anymore. So I think there's a ratio of what's going to get damaged versus what your operating ratio is having those trailers stacked full. So with volume, definitely where the claims department is growing.
I would imagine if that is the most difficult part of your job, it probably is the most challenging as well.
It is. It's challenging. With LTL carriers, they send out new tariffs every year. And it's not so much that you've agreed to the tariffs, it's just, this is our tariff, this is what we're going to do for this amount of time. And a lot of times their limited liability can be as low as 10 cents a pound. And unless you're shipping, I wouldn't even know what you would ship that would be worth 10 cents a pound. We have to be really diligent on what classification things are traveling out. We oftentimes will insure a shipment if it's a high dollar amount so that we don't fall underneath those tariffs, limited liability. So we work with our customers and say, hey, this is a possibility that there could be damage. Let's protect this particular kind of shipment.
I know in recent years, customer acquisition has been tremendous. You act as the 4PL in some cases. What unique challenges does this present to you?
So when we're a fourth-party logistics company, the item that is ultimately going to end up in a space, we will see it from start to finish. So let's say an item comes from overseas, is on a container that goes on a ship, then arrives at the shipyard. It's then transported to our warehouse. It's in our warehouse for a couple months. It's then transported to another company that will actually take it to where it goes and maybe even place it where it belongs. So it would go into an apartment building and maybe ones that are pre-furnished, and it would wind up actually, in where what's ultimately going to be someone's home. There's a lot of people that have handled it. So with freight claims management, you have to be diligent to make sure that that particular package is accounted for and that chain of custody follows all the way through. So you can pinpoint where the damage occurred. So we will, when it comes off the container, we have it checked at the warehouse. When it leaves the warehouse, we have it checked before it leaves the warehouse. When it goes on another truck and it goes to, let's say, the company that's going to install it, we double check and make sure that installer knows that it's still in good condition. And then once it finally arrives to its final destination, we ask that it's in good condition there. So the best case scenario with being a 4PL is just constant documentation, so that chain of custody for the particular item is well documented and you can pinpoint where the damage occurred.
So every step of the way there is a safeguard.
There's safeguards, yes. It's very hard to win a claim against an ocean container. There's the marine laws very different than any other of the laws. So you have to be very diligent once it arrives there. And then also in a warehouse, things can happen in a warehouse. So we need to be diligent with our warehouses, make sure that it's handled properly. And then when it goes on a carrier, damage can happen again. So we check delivery receipts. We have the company that might take it to the very end, we have a packing slip, and we ask that they provide any damages that occur that they notice right then and there. And then that way, once it finally goes to its resting place, we can say with confidence that it was fine until it got there, or even it's fine until the very end. And then we know exactly where damage occurred and how we can win a claim against that.
What is the most rewarding aspect of your job?
Winning a claim. Getting a claim check in the mail. I know that is kind of petty, but when you finally get that customer paid for the full amount and get their freight charges back, it's very rewarding. It feels good. We even have like pictures of, yay, we won one. So, because you don't win them all. You try, but you don't win them all.
On some level, you are really responsible for protecting the client's interests. While maybe not being the most glamorous side of the business, I can imagine that this is vitally important for any customer shipping anything of value, right?
Yes. When I was doing independent inspections, this had nothing to do with LP, but there was someone who flew down to Florida, picked out 2 pieces of granite that matched, had it all custom cut to make a bar in his basement, had it custom packaged to bring back, and it degraded in the shipment, and he basically wound up with paving stones once it arrived at destination, which was here in Erie. And I just felt so bad for him because there was so much effort and there was great love of this one piece of granite. So, nobody wants to talk about claims. Nobody, if you ask a carrier, what's your claims ratio? They don't want to say because it's kind of like the dirty little secret. But things get broken. Things get broken in life. Of course, they get broken on a truck. But it's very important that we protect our customers. LP can track. Once given the data, we can track, let's say that you ship a certain kind of widget and that widget gets to site broken, 15% of the time. We can look at the packaging. We can look at who's carrying it. We can look at possibly putting it in the nose of a trailer as opposed to, and then it riding almost to destination without being moved. So there's a lot of things we can do to protect our customers. And then we also offer very reasonable, what we call shipper's interest insurance, which is insurance on your shipment that doesn't have a deductible. You're protected basically for anything. So we are very focused on protecting the freight, and any time there's issues, we're here to work with our clients.
In the 2.5 years that you have been here, how has the job changed from a volume aspect for you?
We picked up a very large client, and we're growing. It's going to impact everyone that does the LTL freight and also the truckload freight. So as far as the claims management, that's going to take up a lot of our time, definitely. So we're looking to see how we can streamline most things, see, of course, how we can do more with less. That's kind of always the mantra. So there's other people to help take up the slack too, which is nice. The front line that are booking the shipments, they'll get me all the documents that I need right up front, which is wonderful. So we try to do things quickly like that so they don't pile up, and just try to get them filed in real time.
In the past year, we have interviewed so many people at Logistics Plus in so many different departments, and we've been struck by really the unique way the business has been built. When it comes to the plus in Logistics Plus, how does that relate to what you do?
Well, immediately when we picked the client that I was just talking about, that we picked up this large amount of shipments, we did a look back for them, and I went over all the old claims that they had. We're not getting any revenue from it, but it was just a way to show, like, we care 100%, not just because we did this shipment for you, but we care about all of your products. So we went back in for probably the past 5 months and looked at any claims and see if maybe they missed something. So that's that plus part, that we genuinely care. We care from start to finish. It's not just, we need you to do this because it makes it easier for us. It's more like, what can we do to make it easier for you? And Jim always hires people for the person, not necessarily the skill set, and I think it's really successful.
Beth, how has technology changed your role in helping service your clients more efficiently and keeping them updated on their shipments?
As far as technology in general, with the new e-logs that's been mandated, we can track truckloads a lot easier than before. because it's just one guy in a truck. And now that there's e-lugs, you know where it was. You can update the customer with it just left here. It's on its last leg to here. As far as e-ship, on a one page, a customer can track all of their shipments, and when they click on the tracking of the pro number, the carrier's number that they use to track the shipment, when they click on that with eShip, it takes them to the website of that particular carrier. You can see in real time exactly where your freight is, when it last its last terminal. So that's very easy to use, and I think that with our eShip, we do the best we can to put it on one page so they can get every single thing that the customer needs, which is wonderful. That way you don't have 50 million logins, and we can provide documents as soon as they're uploaded. So I would say that technology has made it very different from how it used to be. You used to have to call the terminal that it delivered to, have someone physically go and pull the document and fax it to you. So it's not like that anymore.
Can you break down why claims management is so vital in the big picture for Logistics Plus?
Knee-jerk reaction for most carriers, and be it marine, be it LTL or truckload, the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, I didn't do it. The carrier didn't do it. We don't know how it got broken. So to manage someone's claim is to, from start to finish, to take care of it before it leaves the dock, to make sure it's in the right packaging, to protect it once it arrives, having the customer, the consignee where it arrives to, sign for it damaged, so there's documentation. That helps win a claim tenfold. But I would say that it just makes our clients feel better to know that someone's looking out for the best interest, and then also someone's getting results and actually getting the claims paid, because no one wants to pay a claim, which is just the environment, and there's a lot of freight out there, so it's very easy for carriers to pick and choose what they want to pick up, and we want to work from start to finish to make sure that it's flawless.
Beth, I have to believe your consistency is really the most important thing with this position, right?
Yes, I agree. And it's the times, what do they say? It's something about what in adversity there's opportunity, and that's true. The last thing our clients want is for their clients to have things that didn't make on time, that arrived damaged, or worst case scenario, arrived late and damaged. So it's definitely a spotlight. And then a high dollar claim, kind of that clerk that input it and then we picked it up, it goes up the food chain in their company, so the spotlight's on them, like, why did this ship like this, why did it arrive this way? And so it helps them shine as well, like LP's all over it, they're taking care of it, and so when we're successful, it makes our clients who put the shipment in successful too.
It really is amazing to me the amount of pride that Logistics Plus employees show.
I've always equated it to, like, finally at LP, it feels like you're in college instead of high school, and you're given enough rope to hang yourself or to shine. So I think it falls on us. And when you empower people to do a good job, I think they have a tendency to do a good job. And that's kind of the culture here. And there's no manual that tells you how to do your job here. It's asking people around you. It's seeking that help from someone. It's another department tutoring you on things you may not have known about, but need to know to do your job. And there's a very, it's like a great big hug. And I know that's corny, but that's how it is here. And when you have that kind of environment every day, you can't help but shine.
I would imagine that your greatest fears lie in damage to your client shipments. Can you share how LP safeguards and makes sure that merchandise is shipped and arrives as intended?
If a carrier shouldn't pick up a shipment that's kind of dodgy to begin with. Let's say that it's, like we mentioned earlier, hanging over a skid, or it's crated, but the crate doesn't look like it's going to hold. The carrier is supposed to turn those away to begin with. So we hope that our carriers are doing that. Insurance is a big push, not just because we're trying to sell insurance, but because a claim, like I said, can take 6 to 9 months to get paid. So it's easier to ship out a replacement to your customer if you know that you're going to get them paid for the original one that was sent. I think that with LP also, like I said, we will track a particular kind of shipment that is reoccurring with our customers and see maybe a carrier has a tendency to break it more than a different carrier. So we will recommend to them, we're going to start using this particular carrier. It's similar costs, but we get that they're safe much more easily. If it's packaging, we're happy to take a look at the packaging, to see if the carton rating is strong enough, to see if the way that they even stack it on the skid secures it the best. All of those small things that they may have to seek information other than LP, we're right here to help you with that information, like a one-stop shop.
Attention to detail to your client's needs really is vital, isn't it?
It is. And, one mistake in a zip code, and next thing you know, it's going to Albuquerque when it shouldn't. So we definitely check and double check. And there's technology makes it easier too, because it's not just manual entry, everything. There's a lot of pop-ups that help with that. So we try to put that in our eShip program for our customers as well, to help safeguard them from making mistakes.
Beth, I've heard that you are quite the singer, and I've seen the YouTube video to prove it. A new budding singing career in the works, or just a hobby?
No, I just sing for the joy of singing. No hobby. And definitely no career, that's for sure. I'm way too old.
Beth, thanks again for your time today. It's greatly appreciated. Any closing thoughts on your team's role in excelling in freight claims management for Logistics Plus?
We just keep growing, so I would say watch out. We're just silently and kindly taking over the world, I guess.
Thanks for listening to Business Spotlight on Money Radio WPSE. Business Spotlight is heard Fridays at noon. Join us again next week as Dr. Ford is in the Business Spotlight.